Hi, this is Everett. Everett Watercolors. Welcome to my studio and a new painting class today. I'm broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. And I got the chat room on today, so chat room's live, and I'm in the studio with my wife Gloria,
Welcome, everyone.
and she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking the program for me today. Okay, welcome aboard. I want to go through a couple of things today. Very interesting. The program is going to be about autumn colors. And of course, this is the beginning of the year, so there'll be a lot more colors out there to look at. But I started last weekend capturing some scenes, and today we're going to do some painting. We're going to just have some fun with color today. And I've got a couple new things I want to show you what I'm doing, new approaches and some new techniques, some new ideas, just to maybe for you to think about and try on your own. So let's go to my painting table and let me get started. Okay, this is the reference photograph here that I took last weekend. You can see here the bright colors, the bright reds, the oranges, yellows, and of course there's still some green there in the background with a nice blue sky. Now, this color, I took this photograph. Here's the thing about photographs that you're aware of it. Be very careful when you take photographs. Try to capture the photograph of what you want to paint or what you're trying to remember. Memorize the view, memorize the colors, and etc., and especially the shadow patterns before you start painting. Otherwise, you're going to lose all the effect that you're trying to do. This is the paint. This is the colors that I saw in the very beginning. This was taken about 6:55 a.m., about 10 minutes after daybreak. Daybreak was 6:30, so this was about 15 20 minutes later when the sun was just coming up over the trees. Now here's another photograph, the same location that I took at 7:32. That was about 30 minutes later, and you can see the color. The colors have changed already. The sun's gotten a little bit higher, but it's also washed out a little bit of those brilliant colors that I saw in the very beginning. So this is an example of two photographs of the same location, but to see a very, very remarkable difference in the colors. So this is my reference photograph, and what I did, let me talk a little bit about this. Number one, I took a photograph, but also I did a plein air sketch to capture some of the colors. And of course, the reds were very vibrant, oranges and yellows, with some greens in the background. So this is my plein air sketch that I did. And let me show you. I did this with my travel set. And my travel set consists of the visual journal, which is what I paint on. It's 5x8 size, a nice multimedia paper inside. Also have a palette with comes with 3 tubes of paint, Pyrrole Red, Yellow Lemon, and Ultramarine Blue, full tubes, 15 milliliter. Comes with a spray bottle for liquid for wetting up the paints and so forth. It comes with 2 natural hair brushes, silver brush, 1/2 inch flat and a number 8 round, and it comes with a carrying bag. Okay, that's the travel set, and I used that this weekend to do the painting. So this is on my website, everettswatercolors.com, and I use this every weekend. So I just wanted to introduce that to you again. Okay, now also I did here's my design drawing of the photograph. My information on how to find out the travel set, everything on today's program is on my website, everettswatercolors.com. So I took this is the photograph, and I drew up a design sketch, which I always do and I can see I eliminated some of the background and I simplified. Of course, this lamppost doesn't belong there, so that's gone. And I also just indicated the main areas I want to concentrate on, the middle ground. Now, if I look at this here painting, there's actually 3 layers. There's a foreground layer with the or forward layer of the red trees. Then behind that is orange and yellow trees, and behind that is the green trees. So there's really 3 layers of trees. And of course, there's a layer for the sky, and in the foreground is a shadow pattern. So really, there's 5 layers in this particular setup here. Okay, so we'll go into a little bit of that, but that's how I look at things in layering. layer the colors in the painting. Okay, so there's the drawing and the reference photograph. I'll set that aside, but that's in my Facebook. That's in my homepage on my Facebook, on my website, everettswatercolors.com, and it's on Foreground Watercolors. You'll find a copy of the photograph and a copy of the drawing. Okay, I'll set that over here aside. I'll be looking at that. Okay, now I've got this. Let me go over some of the materials here. I've got, I took the drawing and put it on my quarter sheet of Gemini watercolor paper, which measures 15 inches long and 11 inches wide, 15 by 11. 140-pound archival watercolor. Very nice paper to have, 140-pound cold press. So I'll be painting on that today. Over here in my palette, what I did today is a little bit different. What I've done here is I've laid out the colors I'm going to use in the painting. But I also did, I laid it out in accordance with the painting itself. Let's take a look at the photograph. You'll see here the reds. I've got the red lighter right here. A little lighter red over here on this side over here. The orange, I've got oranges in here around the red area, and I put this here in the orange. There's a lot of yellow mixed in with the greens, and I platted this out down on the palette. Up here is a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is a little darker red right here. This red is there's a third red. 1, 2, 3. 3 reds in a painting. That's alizarin crimson. That's right here. So I got that located on the palette. In the sky, I'm going to use blue. Ooh, I keep forgetting that blue.
Cerulean. Cerulean.
Cerulean blue. Thank you, Gloria. Cerulean blue for the sky. That's what I have up here. And then down here in the foreground, I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna and some yellow ochre. Yellow ochre also be mixed in with the greens. So I got all my colors laid out here on my palette the way I'm going to put them on the painting. Now that's a new approach. Is take your painting or your design, then lay out your palette with the colors you're going to put on the paper, and put them in the color and the value. And here's a dark, here's a light red, here's another red. Put them in the value areas and in the locations you're going to put them on the painting. So we're going to do that today. Now what will happen is I will probably wind up with a impressionistic painting, but that's okay. We're not really thinking about realistic painting today. Now first of all, I'm going to wet the sky area. We're thinking about just having fun with colors. So one of the best ways to have fun with colors is to paint an impressionistic painting. I'm an impressionistic painter. I am an impressionistic painter. I just want to capture the feeling, the colors, and the mood of a particular painting. Okay, so I put a little bit of water down. This is the Hockey brush. This is a large Hockey brush. And I'm going to use a small Hockey brush with a Cerulean Blue. I got Cerulean Blue over here move over to the right. I got a little bit of mixing area. Cerulean Blue, got a little bit of over here on the right side. Mix a little more blue in that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start putting the blue sky up here above. So this is one layer behind the trees. So I wet the paper down first, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint over that the Cerulean Blue into the background. So this is a very light value. It's the background to set up the painting, to set the background for these trees. And you'll see the blue mixes in very nicely with the oranges and the reds and so forth. So it's part of the landscape. Okay, I like that. So we'll set the brush aside, and we'll let that dry on its own. We don't have to do anything about that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is pick up I'm going to pick up some brushes now. I've got a synthetic brush. This is Holbein. This is the number 16 round. Nice big brush. I'm also going to be using the 3/4 inch flat brush, Holbein synthetic. And so I got a 1/2 inch brush, Holbein synthetic brush. And also be using the number 8 round Holbein brush. Okay, those 4 brushes I'm going to use to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do with the round brush is I'm going to go in and get some of that Pyrrole Red. And I'm going to go into the palette. Now this is going to be a darker red. So I'll get started here. Then I'm going to bring up the photograph a little bit later on. And I'm going to look at the photograph a little bit, and I see also I'm going to do some paint strokes. Get a little more water in my brush. I'm going to use some paint strokes also that also will indicate the shape. Okay. Now we're going to start here. We're going to start here loose, and then I'll add in some detail as we go along. Okay. And that's what impressionistic painting is. You start with a little loose painting. So I'm doing some brush strokes here with the round brush. I'm leaving some white paper showing, and I'll go back in and fill some of that in when I move down a little further onto the painting. And I'm going to look at the shape of that. It looks like a fan. If I look at the photograph, and so let me bring that up. I got a photograph here of the There's the picture. There's the photograph that I'm actually trying to paint. You can see it's a very bright red. It's actually got some orange into it, and I may add that in a little bit later as a second layer. But right now I'm going to start with the red. Now you see the also. I'm going to do another red. The other red on the side. So let me take that off. I'll bring that back on later. Okay. So now I'm going to start with the other red. The other red's got a little lighter value, so I'm going to take that same red, add a little bit of water to it. Now I look at the now the photograph also. This has clumps, so I'm going to use the same brush, but I'm going to use a separate kind of brush stroke. So I'm just going to go in and going to put dabs of color in the lumps of leaves that I see, red leaves. There, and this is just a dab. A dab stroke, I don't call it a dab stroke, but it's a dabbing the brush. It's a lighter color. Remember myself to put a little more water on that. And there's also there's some things I can do with that also. So I'm dabbing the paint on the paper, and I'm following some of the description of the photograph. Just get an eye. So this is more of a this part of the painting will look, this tree will look a little different because I put the paint on a little bit differently. Okay. Now I'm going to put one more red up here, and see what I'll do is I think I'll use the same brush. I'll make sure I wash it out real good. So I'm going to change color now. So when I change color, make sure I rinse out the brush in the rinse bucket. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is over here. And that color is also, it's not very dark. It's kind of a middle value. So, and I'm going to put that shape in. It's got a little bit of point to it at the top. That'd be all right. I'm going to kind of follow the shape. Even though it's an impressionistic painting, I'm going to have a little bit of shape in there to identify what it is. Doesn't have to be accurate. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now this one's a little more solid. It doesn't have as much white showing in the branches. But I'm using Alizarin crimson now. This is the third red I'm using in the painting. I'll leave a little gaps here. I'm going to put some other colors in between. And I'll give us a little more definition up here at the top, I think. A little more definition. Okay? It's a different shape of tree, a different color, and a different value. Okay. I'm rinsing out the brush, hitting the sponge. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of I'm going to start off with the orange. Let's see. This orange value in here. Let's take a look at the photograph again. I'll bring it back. You can see off The top here, above the tree, is orange over here. There's some more, or some orange over here. There's a lot of orange along this side over here. So it'll be a lot of orange here and a little orange over here. So that's where I'm going to start putting in some colors right now. And I've got it marked out here on my my map. I got a map of the colors over here on my palette right here. Okay, so let's click that off for a second. Oh, I just dropped something. Oh, there it is, the brush. I'm okay. I'm good. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up some of that orange now. So over here, take some fresh orange out of the palette. And looking at the color, it's not that bright, so I'm going to move it down just a little bit. Add a little more water to that mix. And that's going to have, what it's going to have, this color is going to have a little bit of green mixed in with it. It's not going to be all solid color. So it's going to have a little bit of a mixture, but I'm going to do that on the page, on the paper itself. So I'll get the orange color on first, next to the red. I think that makes it a nice combination here. This red comes in. There's more orange over here on this side, next to the red. So these paints are still wet, so I'm letting them kind of dry down a little bit before I'm putting more in there. This has got more of a yellow streak over here. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the smaller brush, take the number 8 round, and I'm going to pick up some of that Hooker's green now. And I'm going to put that into, I'm going to put that in up here. I'm going to let that mix up here in with this tree here. It's got some greenery in there. I'm going to go ahead and let that mix. There's some shadows and also some greenery up here in this orange tree. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. And let that happen. Okay, all right. Okay, now I'm going to put the next orange in. The next orange I see is along here. This orange right along in here. So let me continue on this orange. Now look at my palette. It's over here. Again, it's not a dark. It's not a real heavy. It's not a real heavy purple. And what I'll do, I think I'll take the flat brush now. I'm going to take the 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm going to put that. I'm going to use that brush work. Now this is a. I'm going to use the corner of the brush. So I'm using another brush stroke. I'm using a flat brush at this point. And I'm going to come in here next to the red. I'm going to bring that down next to this tree. I'm going to bring this on down. I'm going to bring this on down. Okay. Okay, now this also has some greenery mixed in. So I'm going to pick up some of that green I had before, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a little touch of green here and there. It's for shadows. And let that dry. Okay. So we're doing an impressionistic painting, but we're also I'm putting a little more. I'm putting some shapes in here. I'm mixing some colors. Making the shapes interesting. Let's see, I want another orange. I think this orange I can take up. This orange goes up a little higher. It was up in this area here, next to the. Up along here. I think I'll put the orange up along here. Yeah, I'll run this orange up a little bit more. So I'm just putting a little bit more. A little more shape to that orange color there, okay? All right, now I'm going to rinse out the orange color, and I'm going to go into the yellow. Let's see, yellow, let's see, yeah, okay. There's a lot of yellow. I'll put a lot of yellow in this one. Let me see, let me start, this is still a little bit wet, leave that alone. I'll start on this side over here. So on this side of the of the painting. There's a lot of yellow, so I'm going to put that over here. So I'm going to start here with some yellow, and I'm going to fill in some of this area. And I'm trying to leave also the impression that these are trees now, trees and bushes and so forth. So they're going to have a variety of colors, and they're also going to be you know, shapes and so forth, sizes. And what I'm going to do with this yellow, as I show here on my map, see my painting map over here on my palette. I'm also going to come across the bottom here, so I can go ahead and put some of that in. I'm going to put a little yellow track along here. That was the sun shining on the ground right at the base of the trees. Was a little yellow pattern. We're going across the bottom. Let me go ahead and put that in. And I think I can go ahead and add a little bit more yellow up here. This yellow connects with that orange, so I'm going to put that in. So I'm following my map a little bit here too. So I've got a little bit of orange on this side. Okay. Okay, now the orange runs across the bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Just continue it on. It connects all the way across, so that's kind of a connection. I've got color connects through the painting, so when the eye follows the colors, it'll pick up some of that pathway. Yeah, this is the sun shining on the ground at the base of the trees. Let me get that in. Okay. So I'm kind of following my roadmap over here, which is what I put on my palette. And I think you might find that a little interesting. To lay out your palette the same way you're going to put the painting onto your paper. Or onto your canvas, if you're painting on canvas. Same idea. Okay, now I've got a little yellow patch up here on this side. I'll pick that up also. This little patch up here above the orange and next to the red. That was interesting, a little yellow patch up here. Because the sun's hitting that part of the trees, so it's a little bit lighter up here at the top of the trees. And that'll come over a pretty good little swatch over here. Overlap that a little bit with that orange. They don't have to be separate. Bring that on down. Okay. Orange. Okay, I got all my orange in. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to put in is the green. The greens go everywhere. So got kind of a interesting little patch here. So let's go back and look at the photograph one more time. Look at that little photograph. You can see here now I've got the reds in here. Over to here, and I got the oranges over here in the top, orange. And I've got the yellow, this yellow path that goes down along the side, along the bottom, underneath the trees, all the way over to here, okay? And I got a little yellow patch up here, above the orange, up in the side over here, okay? All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and put in, see if I got all my sections. Yeah, I think I do. So I'm going to start putting in the greenery. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a flat brush. I'm going to use a combination of the flat brush and the round brush. So in the flat brush, I'm going to put the green, and in the round brush, I'm going to have a little bit of yellow in it, in the round brush. So I'm loading up the round brush with yellow, and I'm going to have the green. Let's start over here on the side. This is a big area of green. So let me start over here. Hooker's green on this side. And it's about a middle value, so I'll put a little more water in that area and then start going. Now these brush strokes will be a little bit of texture because I'm going to make them look like leaves now. So I'm going to use the broad brush strokes, using the corner of the brush, end of the brush, and using up and down stroke, side stroke. Edges here will be the edge of the tree, edge of the leaves. So I basically want to cover this in with a nice color of green, but now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start putting in some color mixtures into that. And all what I'll do is I'll pick up a little bit of I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna, or a little bit of yellow ochre maybe. A little yellow ochre. Put some yellow ochre in there. Mix that up just a little bit. It's not pure green. It's got a mixture of yellows. And so I come over here. Now some of these areas are darker than others because they're in shadows. So I will add some dark areas in there later. Still working over here at the top. This section down here, again, I simplified this section here. Just going to show some of the treetops. Not exactly like the photograph, but just enough to give me an impression that they're the background. This is that third layer I was talking about. You got a front layer of red, a second layer of yellow and orange, and then you got a background layer of greenery. And that's what I'm doing now, the background layer behind the yellow layer, yellow and orange layer. And I've got this this green will connect over here to the yellow and the green. Okay, then moving on down here, I want to get some more color in here. So get on down. I'm going to go in very quickly now. Now I'm going to paint around the tree trunks here a little bit. That I will leave to the last detail at the end. The tree trunks. That comes under the heading of detail. Now I'll go ahead and I want to put in some yellow now. I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow here from the round brush. Now what that does, that adds a little bit of variety into that green. I don't want all one value and one color of green. I want it to be a mixture of yellows, oranges, or yellows and browns. So this green comes up here next to this. The green next to the red makes the red pop out too. Remember complementary colors. We've talked about that many times in many paint. Using complementary colors next to each other helps bring out those colors a little bit. When you put complementary colors together, like green and red, it enhances both colors. It makes the green look greener and the red look redder. So that's what I'm doing here, and it's part of the painting also. I got this green background that's behind these trees, these colorful trees with the leaves coming out. So now I'm going to go ahead, now I'm going to put in some more of that yellow here. I'm going to introduce some yellow in here, break up that green, and tie in this little yellow down here at the bottom. Okay, I got another green patch over here. That's going to start that over here. There's a yellow patch of green trees behind here. So these are partially evergreen trees and trees that are still got green leaves on them. They're turning color, but they haven't finished their change yet. So they're still got lots of greenery around there. Now I'll go around and I will fill in some of these empty areas. I got white paper showing here, but I'll go back in later at the end and we'll clean those up. Right now I'm just getting the major elements of shapes, sizes, and the main parts of colors. Now now if you look at my map here, I've also got a dark green down here at the bottom here, the bottom of the tree, and that's really to show the contrast. So this is one of the darker areas of the painting right here. And I'm going to make it probably even darker than this, but I'm going to start out with a green, very dark green over here. It runs up alongside this nice red tree. the beautiful red leaves on. The one thing I forgot to do, and I usually do, I could have picked up some of the red leaves off the ground, or off. I could have taken a couple off a couple of limbs just as references, because I always like to collect a sample of the actual leaves. I do that every year. I have many samples of leaves, and I put them in a storage bag and seal that, and it keeps them. They stay. I've had leaves saved. I've saved them for 5 or 6 years. They don't go bad. If you seal them so the air doesn't get to them. But they'll stay in good shape, and they're good reference. They're good reference shapes down the road for a painting in the studio. I'm gonna put a little greenery here. Now, a little detail right here. There's a little branch out for that one. So I'm just playing a little bit of detail now. Okay. Let's see. This color over here. I'll get this a little bit wider. Okay. All right. Now, and I think what I'll do is that yellow, put the yellow, a little bit of yellow over here on the green. And there's one more green patch over. That's right here. If you follow my map over here, you'll see I'm picking up a green on this side of the red over here. Let me take that photograph away. I got the photograph in the way right now. Let me take that off. Okay, so I'm picking up this on the map I have here on my palette. I got dark green. I was going to go over here next to the tree, and there it is. So I'm following the map here on my palette. I'm putting the tree. I'm putting the colors in exactly as I planned on my painting. And you'll notice here that this is another little green patch. So this is one way that I have found. This is one way to organize your painting and organize your paints and colors that you're going to use before you get started. You know, plan out your palette, get your colors where you want them on the palette, then bring the palette onto the paper. And I think that's a way. That's a procedure I just found out about by just experimenting. I did a little bit of that when I did Plein Air. I brought it back into the studio and I played around with it, and it works. So it's a good way to get started. It's a good way to do a practice painting. Now I'm going to put a little bit of yellow ochre over here on this side. A little bit of yellow ochre. Mainly it's a light area over here, but I don't want it to be too light. The lightest area is going to be the yellows. The bright yellow, lemon yellow. This lemon yellow is kind of a duller yellow, and it will blend in with the yellow, but it won't be as distracting over here. So I'm going to come in here and put that yellow ochre in there. Now I'm going to pick up some more of that dark green on this side. There's a patch over here. Right here on the bottom left corner, there's a little patch of green. I'm going to put that in there. There it is. So I'm following my painting plan, used from my palette. I call it a painting map. Let's call it a painting map. I don't have any other word for it. I'm using the flat stroke again, and let's see. I'll bring this in so you can see it into the paint. I'm over here working in this corner right here, and then my palette took it out of here. So if you turn my palette around, let's take a look at it right before I go any further. I've taken the colors from my palette, which I laid out on my design, and moved them over to the paper. Okay, so this is a replica here of the actual painting, but I'm on the drawing, on the painting itself, I'm putting a little bit of a little touch of good contrast. I've got shapes, values, a little bit of edge control. I'm identifying what some of the items are. So over here, now what I want to do, let me finish off a little bit of the foreground here. The only foreground here is in the parking lot area. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre, clean out my brush first. One of the things, I can use the round brush for this. This is a small area. I'm going to use the round brush. Let me now take a tissue, clean up that little bit of green I don't want in there, and pick up the yellow ochre, and go down here and start putting in some ground color. Just a little bit of ground color. That'll be a start right there. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. Put that in there, a little mixture of burnt sienna. Mix it in with that little bit of yellow that I have up there.
Question is that yellow ochre and burnt
Yellow ochre was the yellow ochre here is my first stage on the bottom. And then on top of that, I'm putting a little bit of burnt sienna. What I want to do, I want to get darker as I go in the foreground. The foreground here, as I come forward, I'm getting darker. And that's a good principle of art, a good philosophy of art is to have a value change when you have a plane like this, a flat plane like the parking area, the parking lot, which is what this was. I didn't want to make it black. The black doesn't go with the painting. So the browns and the browns will go with it, with the greens and the reds. The brown goes in it very nicely. Okay. I'll give a little texture here in the foreground. Going from a lemon yellow to a yellow ochre to burnt sienna, kind of a transition in value from light to middle to dark value. Okay. All right. Now what I think I'll do is I'll go in and I'll do a little touch up now around the trees. So I'm going to now look at the double check the values I want. I think over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these brushes away and bring out my smaller brushes. Here's a 1/2 inch flat and my number 8 round. Okay, now these are more for detail brushes, but this is what I need to do now. Over here, on the light red tree, it needs a little more color in it, so I'm going to add just a little more texture. Mix up a little more paint. And I used a dab. I'm going to use this is a flat brush, but I'm using a dabbing stroke over here. Now here's something else I want to show. I want to keep this light over here, so when I put that second layer in, it's getting a little dark. So what I do here, I'm going to pick up a little bit of titanium white on my brush. A little bit of titanium white. And I'm going to go in here now and go over that red, and I'm going to lighten it down. So what I'm doing, adding white to that red color. And what that does, it lightens the intensity. That changes the intensity of that color. Okay. Now I'm going to take the small brush now. I'm going to take that green now. And I'm going to go in and go a little bit around the edges a little bit. Take away some of those white areas. I'm going to leave some of the white showing a little bit around the inside because that gives a little bit of glow. Get a little bit of dimension here on the branches. I think in a lot of my paintings I leave a lot of white paper because it gives you a little bit of sparkle. But here I'm kind of cleaning up around the edges. And this I think I'll leave that alone. That's enough. Over here on this one, I'm going to go in there with this over in the large red one. I really like this one. I'm not going to really change anything. I really like the way it turned out. I'm not going to change it at all. I like what went on. And what I want to do is make up a little darker edge here. Just a little darker edge on the side. And I'll put a little more green in this one here, this orange. Now this orange also got a little bit light, so I don't want to get it too dark. So I'm going to take a little bit of orange that's in the palette, go back and put in just a little touch of, a little more red, a little more orange, and not everywhere. What I'm doing is adding a little bit more to pick up a little more of the leaves, a little more contrast, a little more texture, so it's not flat. If you leave it in one color and one value, it looks flat. But if you put a little bit of color in there, it gives a little dimension. Little darks and lights of the same color. Okay? And I didn't do too much because I want these two trees here to be the one popping out. Those others go behind. Okay? And now what I can do up here in these orange and these yellow ones now, I can put a little yellow ochre, and I can go ahead and put a little bit of shadow pattern inside these little yellow trees up here, yellow bushes. Just a little touch, a little dimension. I think I can get away with a little bit of the dark green up here, top of this yellow. A little bit of shadow up here on this tree here behind. Now by putting this darker now behind, I'm shading behind this tree here. This puts a little bit darker behind. That pushes that green tree back further in the distance because it's behind this yellow tree. So by putting a little bit of darker area there, it's going to push it back behind. And that's what I want. And I'll take the brush and I'll fade that out a little bit so you don't want to have it too much. You don't want to show an edge, too much edges. There. That one there was good. This area over here, the same thing. I want to put a little bit of greenery over here. And what I'm doing now, I'm adding a little bit of green over in this section right here. On my map, it's on this section here. It's green. So I'm going to add a little bit of texture in here. I'm adding a little bit of green to show individual leaves. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange. And I'm going to put that in here. I'm getting a variety of color, a variety of brush strokes. Here I'm using a small brush. I'm introducing a little bit of orange in there with that green to break that up just a little bit. And also over here, because it's behind, I'm going to make this a darker green now next to this orange because it's behind. The green is behind. I'm putting a darker edge over here next to this orange so that it pushes that green tree back. It pushes it back behind that orange tree and also behind this yellow one. Don't want it to be the same value, even though it's a different color. You really want to think about values. The most interesting part about a painting, I think, is having a good value plan, a good value structure, where the value is the one that really, it's the backbone of the painting. It gives the depth, and it gives the dimension of the painting. Okay, I think I got one more area here. Take a little more of that yellow ochre. Here I'm breaking up this yellow over here. I'm putting a little bit of texture, and I'm using yellow ochre here just to put a little bit of texture, a little bit of shadows over here in this yellow bush tree. Mix it up a little bit. Add a little water to it. That'll dry lighter. I'll leave that yellow ochre alone, don't need that. Now I think around this tree here, I'm going to get a little bit darker. So I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue and mix it in with that. Down here in my painting map, right here, I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that green. So I want this really to be dark down here. It's going to be really dark behind this red tree. There's a lot of shadow down here in the base of this area, so I'm going to take advantage of that. There's a lot of shadow, so I'm making it really dark. That'll make this tree pop out even more. I'm gonna leave. I like that green behind it, so I don't want to cover a lot of the green up, but I do want to make that area darker behind the tree. As I said before, I'm making it dark now. I want it to really stand back, move back away from this red tree. It's further back behind. A bit of shadow patterns back there. Okay. All right. Also on the right-hand side, a little bit of dark over here. I've also another good philosophy on art here is that when you do a painting like this, don't put two separate colors in behind an object. For example, this trunk of this tree. If I got a dark here, I'm gonna make a dark over here. You don't want to have two. You don't want to have color here and color here different, or value. That way you want that to look like it's behind on both sides, which it is, and you want to separate it from the background by color and by value. In this case, I'm separating it by value, making it much darker behind. Now here I can do a little bit of negative painting here. I can do a little dark here, and then let that green show as a bush, a little bit of negative painting around that, which is nice. I like to do that. Make this a little darker here. Let's separate this tree a little bit more. Okay, I like that. I like that. Over here now, the same effect over here on this tree. Last change I'm going to make is on this side. On as far as what I see here, I'm going to make this. Take this dark green. And I'm going to go over here now behind this tree and do the same application. I'm going to put a darker value behind the trunk. And make sure I have a darker edge around the edge. Separate. The green tree is behind the red tree. So I'm going to push it back by making it darker. Darker green. And I can do some negative painting here to give me shapes of trees and bushes back here in the background. That always gives it that gives an interesting effect, is to have a light in a dark area. You know, the sun is shining in here, so there are certain parts that are going to be lighter and brighter and darker and so forth. This part up here is darker behind this section, behind the yellow and the red. Up here, okay, that works. Now up here on the right hand side, the light's really shining up there. It's the tallest tree in the whole composition, and it's not really going to hurt anything. I'll leave out a little bit lighter up there. The sun is hitting that section up there. And what I want to do now is kind of wipe those out. You don't want to leave too many hard edges. Smooth those out a little bit. Get a little bit up here, smooth out some of those edges. Now, the same thing I just told you a few moments ago, we want to darken both sides the same way. So over here on this tree, on this side I want it dark also, the side of the tree. So it's dark here, light is also dark over here. That pushes the background behind. That puts that behind this tree. I can do a little bit of negative painting here to maybe show a bush or some tall grass or something. this green now is behind this. The green is behind this orange tree, so I'm going to make a little darker edge there. Trying to be consistent. Okay, all right. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just polish off the tree trunks, and then we'll be just about finished with this. The tree trunks are very simple. Okay, let me do a little quick review here while we got time to look at a review. Let's go back to that painting I have, picture I have. Now, okay, there's the picture, there's the painting. All right, I've got the reds and so forth, and also this large orange in here. I got the yellows up here, the reds and so forth. I changed the colors a little bit because I thought they would go better than the actual actual colors in the photograph. And that is an artist's license right there. You can do that whenever you see it's not necessary. So let's get that off. Okay, but the other thing I want to review here very quickly is look at the roadmap. The roadmap I did on the palette. I put the colors on the paper as I planned them out over here. All the colors here: the reds, the yellows, the oranges, even the yellow ochre, and all the greens. A little patch here, the green along here, green here, and a green along the right side up across the top. So I follow along with my painting plan and use the palette to lay out all the colors. And I think that's a nice procedure to have or try out, and I would recommend that. Okay, so going back to the tree trunks, I'm going to use a little bit of yellow ochre. They're not very dark. They're kind of. I'm going to use yellow ochre and a little bit of. Let's see. Start again. So mix up the yellow ochre and a little bit of burnt sienna, just a slight bit of burnt sienna. So it's going to be a combination of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. And I'm going to go in here now and I'm going to put some color in there. And then I'm going to pick up a little shadow. So the shadow of that is going to be a little bit of, let's use Ultramarine Blue. There's Ultramarine Blue. And I'm going to put that, mix that in with that mixture there. Gives me a gray. And I'm going to go underneath the branches here, and I'll make that a little darker, a little duller. Bring that down. So even a small area like this, even the tree trunks, you want to put a little bit of artistic touches to it. Change the color, change the value. Let the colors mix on there. Let the colors mix. You can see that. I'll bring it up close to see that. So as that dries, it'll turn even more. So just leave that alone. So I got a little combination there, and over here, use a little bit of. Now this is wet. I see the green is still shiny. When you look at the paper, you can see the shiny paint. You know the paint is still wet. So I got to be very careful on this edge here. So put a little bit of yellow ochre there, and I'll put a little bit of burnt sienna on this side over here. I'm gonna leave a little white edge on this one, just for difference, just to be different. Leave a little white edge showing over here, a little highlight on the edge of the trunk. Okay, now the shadow pattern on the ground, it was coming in. This was I was facing west, so the sun was behind me, over my back. So the shadows are really going to right into. But I can make a little shadow pattern here, just for artistic license. just to finish off the shadow pattern a little bit. So I'll mix up a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue. That'll make it a dark brown or gray color. And I'll come in here and I'll put a little shadow pattern out here along the tree here, just to give it a little indication. Okay, and I'll do the same over here. This one's a little further back. So just to have a little shadow pattern that makes a little bit of sense. So that I made the shadow pattern up. It wasn't really there, but I want to add it in anyway. Okay. All right. So what I want to do now, I'm going to put let's put the mat around. And put the green mat around. See, because I got red in the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and put the mat around. Let's center it up. Bring it down. And let's see. I got to bring it up a little bit. Okay. Aha! Voila! Not much I can do with that. That's about it. Okay. Ta-da, ta-da. I am really happy with that. That turned out. This is what I call an impressionistic painting. The shapes are there. The impression is there. And I captured the autumn colors that I saw both on location and from the photograph. And I put in the 5 layers: the sky, the background trees, the yellow and orange layer, the red layer, and then the foreground layer. And I left a lot of whites on the big tree. I want to leave it there. If I want to look at the photograph, you'll see there's a lot of white. If you can see there, if I look up real close, you'll see that there's a lot of white branches in that particular tree. And I think that adds to the tree. It's an impressionistic. And I like the impression of that color, the red and the white, because that's exactly what I saw, okay? I see the white, you can look at the white limbs in there. The white limbs, so forth. So I really like that, okay? I'm going to leave it alone. So let's go back to my main camera. Hey! Well, I consider that a successful painting today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. I think a couple things that I really tried different today was, number one, I started out with a photograph. I had 2 photographs. One I took earlier and one I took a little bit later. And you can see the color changes just from the change of light. 30 minutes makes a big difference. And you have to memorize what that colors were. Take a photograph if you have a camera. Like I did both. I took a photograph and I also started painting what I saw. And I kept that picture in my head as I was painting those objects. So that's what was able me to do the impressionistic painting. And I call it impressionistic because it was really an impression of the colors I saw. I had fun with colors today. The other thing I think that I was a good teaching aid is number one, I did a design drawing from the photograph. Then I took my design drawing and I plotted out my colors on the palette. And then I took those colors from the palette and applied them to the painting in the exact locations that I had drawn out. And that helped me, number one, to plan. I could look at the sketch, I could look at the colors, and I could see how things were going to go together. And I think that's a description of a process. Instead of just putting color on the paper and then wishing or just blotting things in and so forth, you need to have a good color plan along with a good value plan, okay? And with those different layers, you had to have darks in front of lights and so forth. Okay, well, I really enjoyed today. I hope you got something out of that. I'm going to be back next week at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. And I'm going to be on later on today with Simply Drawing with Everett at 7:30 p.m. and Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be drawing people tonight. We're going to be putting people in the landscape. So if you want to do a simple landscape but then add people to it, then tune in tonight at 7:30 p.m. and I'll see you then. So until next week, you all have a safe weekend, a safe week, and take care. And